All right, so Apple announced some new hardware today, the new iPhone 13s, the new iPad mini, and the new Apple Watch Series 7. I'm gonna go through some stuff that I found was interesting about these particular devices. Let's start with the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. And if you take a look at the screens first, they're now capable of running at 120 Hertz. The size and the screen resolution stay the same, and the notch is a little bit smaller this year. It's just this capability of being able to go to a higher refresh rate. Now, this is tech we've seen on so many other Android flagships for the past few years, and Apple finally introduces this into their phones. It's really cool if you've never seen this before. It's fast and fluid, and even in comparison to the iPad Pro displays with ProMotion, these are going to look nicer because the iPads have IPS panels, right? They're fast, but there's a bit of ghosting going on. On the phones, these are OLED panels. They're really fast response time, fast refresh rate. It's a nice image, and the hardware is capable of lowering that refresh rate down to 10 Hertz. And the idea being you lower it down to preserve battery life, right? If you're watching a high refresh animation or you're playing a game that can support a fast refresh rate, it'll bump it up. But if you're just watching a static image, if you're browsing Reddit or something or looking at a picture, it'll lower it down. Now, in the past, when it came to other companies that use this tech, like OnePlus phones, Samsung phones, any device that uses LTPO tech, there's usually a bit of a stutter or some kind of visual lag when you flick the screen and the phone's trying to ramp up the refresh rate from low to high. It appears in basically every phone I've ever reviewed with LTPO tech. But on the iPhone, I'm curious to see how they handle it because Apple cares a lot about their animations. They put a lot of effort and time into just how the UI interacts, and if there's lag there from this LTPO tech ramping speeds up and down, I think people will notice. So I'd like to see what it looks like on the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. But that's the other thing. This tech, this ProMotion tech, only appears on the iPhone 13 Pro and the Pro Max. The regular ones, like the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 mini, they don't have ProMotion. They're still in like poverty motion at 60 Hertz. All right, so the cameras, both the iPhone 13 Pro and the Pro Max share the same camera system this year. There's 3 new lenses compared to last year. The main camera has a bigger sensor. The telephoto has a 3x zoom compared to 2.5 from last year, so it's just got a better zoom capability. But the third lens is the most interesting one to me. So this is the ultra wide, but this year it has a wider aperture and it can also focus on things that are close, like really close, 2 centimeters away, so you can get some nice macro photos. Now, the iPhone 13 Pros can also record video in ProRes, which is cool, but I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Like, it's a video format that it's truly a professional video format. It's for editing and for working with. And the iPhone 13 Pros can record the footage in 4K, 30 frames per second. I believe the lower end model, like the base model, 128 gigs of storage, can only shoot 1080p, 30 frames per second. Now, I don't know if that limitation is there because of a RAM difference between the models or if Apple's putting some kind of soft cap there so that people with the smaller storage don't fill up their phones in 5 minutes. Point being, ProRes footage is no joke. It's very pro, but it's also very big. I do think that this year's Pro models are a more capable camera system than the non-Pro by a significant margin. They're even including an extra GPU core on the Pro models. Like the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, they have a 5-core GPU as opposed to the 4-core on the regular iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini. The colors on the Pro models, there's this light blue model this year that doesn't look all that great to me from the photos and videos so far. It could look completely different in real life, but based on the pictures so far, I'm not a big fan of it. In terms of the iPhone 13 colors, like the regular iPhone 13s, the blue looks like it's slightly different compared to last year's model. I think this new one is nicer. The camera systems on the iPhone 13 and 13 mini are arranged diagonally this year, and it's seemingly to house a bigger sensor. So this was taken from the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It's a large sensor, and it also has sensor shift technology, the tech from Apple that moves the sensor around instead of the lens cluster. So it's a little bit lighter and a little bit quicker to respond to any kind of vibrations or movements when you're using the cameras. Now, Apple's also introducing this new cinematic mode for video, and this tech looks really cool to me. So we've seen portrait mode in photography before. A lot of companies are doing it. Apple, Google, Samsung, basically everyone. But Apple's the first company to do the equivalent of that, but for video. And it looks really cool. It can intelligently shift focus between various objects in the scene. And if someone comes in and is looking at the lens, it'll focus on that face. But then if they look away, it'll focus back on the object. It's so neat. And all 4 phones get access to this cinematic mode. So that includes the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini, despite having lesser camera systems than the other 2. Okay, so the processor. These are all running the A15 Bionic this year, with the iPhone 13 Pros having that extra GPU core. Also, the battery systems. They're supposedly bigger this year across the board and longer lasting. The 13 mini and the 13 Pro get an extra hour and a half compared to last year's model, but the regular 13 as well as the 13 Pro Max get an extra 2.5 hours compared to last year's models. So it's a significant bump up in battery life, if you ask me. I do find it strange though that they still refer to it as all-day battery. Like, I feel like they've been using that term forever, but the battery life is improving, but it's still all-day battery. They mentioned some new MagSafe wallets that are compatible with the Find My app. And at first I was like, are they running AirTags in these new things? But I think what they're doing is it's just a detection system. Like, you have these new MagSafe wallets, they stick onto the back of the phone, and when it comes off, like when it detaches, it'll record the time and the location that it happened. And the idea being that if you ever misplace it, like if you ever have a wallet, a MagSafe wallet that comes off and you're unaware that it came off, like it slipped off, when you're taking it out of your pocket, it falls off, you can at least find the location and time that it happened. The current iteration of MagSafe wallets can't do that. So if they ever detach accidentally, they can be hard to find. Okay, the iPad mini. This was the star of the show. So this was unexpected for me because I thought Apple was done with this form factor. Like, they hadn't updated the mini iPad for a couple of years, and I was like, they're moving on from it. But here we are with an 8.3-inch device with thin bezels, the A15 chip, second-gen Apple Pencil support, and center stage. Remember that tech from the iPad Pro a few months ago where it would crop the image and seemingly follow you around and bring more people into the conversation? That is a really cool piece of camera tech that I personally love, and I think to have that on a $500 device that is super compact, I think it's a really great move. There's a USB-C port as well as Touch ID on the top. There is no 120 hertz display, so it's like a regular poverty motion screen. And there's also no mini LED, which would have been nice, but I feel like at this price point, I wouldn't have expected anything different. Okay, the last thing, the new Apple Watch. So it's got thinner bezels. It doesn't have that leaked design that we saw floating around on the internet. I don't know if that thing was real or if that's coming out in the future or if that was just a big troll, but it doesn't look like that. That's all that I know. The new thinner bezels with the brighter screen, I think that's a reasonable motivator for people that had like an older version to upgrade to this one. Like, a bigger screen is always nice, but for me, the faster charge time is most interesting. Like, anytime I've ever had an Apple Watch, I've always had problems keeping it charged. I'm bad with that stuff. Like, I'm just not good at keeping my devices charged. Faster charge time, I like that. Okay, that's the Apple lineup. What do you think? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. See you guys next time.